My neighbor knocked on my door at 6 a.m. on a Wednesday. She never does that. I remember standing there in my dressing gown, half asleep, watching her face do something I'd never seen it do before. Margaret is 71 years old, a former district nurse, a woman who once calmly called an ambulance while her own husband was having a stroke. She is not a woman who cries on doorsteps, but she was crying then, holding a cup of tea she'd made for me, like she'd known I wouldn't be able to make one myself. "Have you seen your phone?" she asked. I hadn't. It was charging in the kitchen. I'd left it there on purpose the night before because I'd been trying to sleep better. 16 missed calls, 4 from my brother, 6 from a number I didn't recognize, 3 from my mom's mobile, and 3 from my dad's. My parents were on a cruise, a 2-week Mediterranean trip they'd been planning for over a year. My dad had retired in March and my mom had taken the time off specifically. I'd waved them off from the same doorstep 11 days ago. My dad had tried to get me to come. I'd said I had work. Margaret came inside and sat at my kitchen table. She didn't say anything while I played the voicemails back. My brother's voice, which I hadn't heard crack since we were teenagers, cracked 4 separate times in 4 separate messages. The first one just said my name. That was it, just my name, and then silence, and then the sound of him trying to breathe steadily. I still didn't fully understand. That's the thing nobody tells you. You can receive information and your brain will simply refuse to file it correctly. I kept thinking about the itinerary stuck to my fridge. They were supposed to be in Dubrovnik that day. I remember thinking, very clearly and very stupidly, that someone must have made a mistake. The number I didn't recognize was a British consular officer based in Malta. There had been an accident on the ship, not a collision, not anything dramatic. My father had gone out early to watch the sunrise from the upper deck. He'd slipped on a wet surface near the railing. The investigation would later find the drainage had been blocked for weeks, and the crew had noted it internally, but not cordoned it off. My mother had been with him. She'd seen it happen. He survived. That took me a long time to process too. The fact that the call I was dreading turned out to be something different and in some ways worse. He was alive, in a hospital in Valletta, with a serious spinal injury and a fractured skull, and he had no memory of the fall. My mother was physically unhurt. She had been sitting 10 feet away from him on a deck chair, and had watched my father go over the railing, and had spent 3 hours not knowing whether he was dead while they airlifted him. She hadn't slept. She hadn't eaten. When I finally got her on the phone, she sounded like someone had taken her voice out and replaced it with a recording of her voice. I booked a flight for that afternoon. I threw things into a bag without looking at what I was packing. Margaret drove me to the airport and didn't ask me how I was feeling, which was the kindest thing anyone could have done. When I walked into that hospital room and saw my dad lying there, tubes everywhere, head bandaged, the size of him somehow diminished in a way I'd never seen before. Something in my chest came completely loose. He opened his eyes when he heard me come in. He didn't know how bad it was yet. He looked confused and a little embarrassed, the way he always looks when he thinks he's caused an inconvenience. "You didn't have to come all this way," he said. I couldn't answer him. I just sat down next to the bed and took his hand. My mom came in behind me, and for a moment the 3 of us just stayed like that in the quiet. My dad is still in rehabilitation. It's been 7 months. He's learning to walk again, and some days are harder than others, and we still don't know what the long-term picture looks like. But last week he walked to the end of the garden and back, without any help. I watched him from the kitchen window and didn't say anything. Some things you just have to let happen.